welcome back. Benjamin Hatfield, Teach Me to Dive. I'm a technical dive instructor here in Idaho and in Florida as well. And as you all know, I'm really into my dive computers. I really like dive safety. I always wear at least 2 computers and make sure that I'm safe. But what I've started noticing over the last few months, maybe a little bit longer, is there's a new player kind of coming into the US market. And while they have dominated absolutely in the European market, I'm starting to see that trickle into the US market, and that's ratio dive computers. I've been extremely impressed by what I've seen thus far with the brightest screens, with everything that they have to offer, with GPS functions as well. And I think they're going to give some local US competitors maybe a little bit of a run for their money. And so I was really interested to talk to Giorgio. Giorgio, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Giorgio, what is your role with ratio dive computers?
So I'm collaborating with the headquarters in Italy, which is Dive System, is the parent company basically, and so I am the general manager for the US area for the company. Obviously, also for dive, we also make diving gear, but now we focus on ratio computers. So ratio computer is part of Dive System.
Excellent. So tell me about your personal experience using ratio dive computers.
So yeah, I'm using this unit since more than 1 year now. I'm diving mostly along the East Coast. So that means cold water and often bad visibility. I have to tell you that, first of all, the battery, even in very cold water, lasts for a long time. So the need of recharging is every a number of dives. It's not every day. You know what I mean? You can go for many hours before you need to recharge the battery, which is a good thing. And also, it's very bright. You can see very well in any condition, and the screen is big. So the numbers are actually large. So it's very easy to read. And then I think a big point of this unit of the computers that you have 4 mechanical buttons on the bottom to change the different menu, to access the different menus. And it's very easy to navigate through this menu, because basically the menu itself is telling you what button you have to push for going up, down, the next one, and so on. And you can use them even with thick gloves. As I say, we dive here in cold water, even in winter. So it's absolutely easy to move through. The compass is very accurate and also gives you some extra information. For example, you can program no problem. You just push and then gives you the reverse direction. So if you're going to our basic, just to make very easy example, you are going north, and then the system will tell you that obviously, yes, you have to go south to go back, but this also gives you any direction. And this is the GPS. Obviously, GPS does not work underwater. There is no GPS. Because I know, because sometimes people say, oh, this is an underwater GPS. Unfortunately, there are no GPS they can work underwater. It's impossible, unless you have an antenna at surface, but that's another game. So this GPS will work at surface. So what happens? You reach your diving point, you mark the waypoint, you mark your position, you start your dive, and then you came back. And then next day, you will have your rack point, whatever point you marked in your computer as a waypoint. So it's very simple then to recall the waypoint and then be back on your say, for example, rack site and so on. So the GPS, beside this GPS, you can select the different satellites. They're called constellations. So depending where you are, you might have a better signal from, for example, for the US is a GPS. In Europe, you might have a Galileo, which is another group of satellites, and so on. So depending where you are, the computer will allow you to select a combination of the different satellites. So for example, I use this computer in the Marshall Islands, in the middle of Pacific, and I changed some of the constellations, and the computer was pretty quick to load the new data. So I got a GPS position in relatively short time, even moving so far from the last point that was on, which was on the East Coast of the US. So there are many functions. Another big point of this computer is that there are 3 levels of the computer. And basically, so in this way, if you buy the basic level and then down the line, you are evolving as a diver, you do not need to buy a new one. You just buy a code from us, and we can upgrade the firmware inside. So your computer will move to the next step. So from Pro to Deep and then to Tech. So it's just a code that you have to buy because the electronics is already there. What you cannot do, you cannot move from a non-GPS unit to a GPS unit, because for the GPS unit, you need some hardware that must be already inside. So it is not possible to move from a non-GPS unit to a GPS one. But within the same family, if you wish, you can move from Pro to Deep to Tech Plus through a code. So it's just an electronic, basically, upgrade. The hardware is already in the computer. And this obviously is cost effective because you don't need to buy a new computer. You are not losing all your logbook, for example, because you still have the same unit and so on. And this is something that there are not many other computers able to do this. So you don't buy a new unit, you just upgrade your own unit. Speaking of upgrading, another thing that you have, there is a free tool, is a Ratio Toolbox. So it's a software that you load on your laptop or whatever, and then you can connect your diving computer with your laptop through this toolbox. You can have the last update for free, the last update of firmware software, and you can download your logbook. You can analyze your data of the dives and so on. But most importantly, if you keep an eye, whatever upgrading of the software is done by our engineers will be available for your computer, just very easy, transferring through this Ratio Toolbox, which is basically a small software that you load on your own PC. And this is another thing. The screen mechanically is very scratch resistant, and then there is also a cover that we add. Is like a film that is further protection for the scratches. Besides, I really damaged mine because of the job that I do. So basically, I tend to destroy everything. So this computer, yes, but it's not computer fault. This is the job that we do. I use a lot of tools, some metal tools underwater, so it's pretty easy to get big scratches. So this computer, it got a lot of beating. The screen is totally visible, no problem whatsoever. And as I said, my use of the unit is extremely heavy. Is really heavy from any point of view. But the computer, as I said, is very solid, it's very robust. And I think the main point that what I like more is the visibility of the screen. It's very clear, and also it's not cluttered. You have the information that you need at that time. It's not all together, you know what I mean? If you want, then you can move through some different screens during the dive. So once again, you can focus on what you want. So for example, the bottom row, you can change, and then you can see, depending on what you want to see at that moment, do you want to know your O2 pressure, or you want to know the water temperature, and so on. But it's not all together, because you have to focus on what is important at that stage. So putting all together, we notice that is not the best way. This is the surface screen. Also, if you want, you can also change the colors. So you have a different combination of colors. For example, sometimes we notice that depending on if you dive in some very murky waters, you might want to change a few of the colors, are more visible depending on the situation of the visibility of the water. And this is something that you can do very easily. So once again, when you move through the different menus, the computer itself is guiding you. You know what I mean? So you don't need to remember sequences of pushing buttons or something like that. Just follow. It's very intuitive. That's it. And obviously it gives you for the tech version gives you any combination of nitrox and trimix. You can set gradient factors. You can set the different decompression algorithms and so on. As usual, if you touch gradient factors, if you move through the different algorithms, you should know what you are doing.
Of course.
Right. Because this is something that I say, remember that any algorithm is a model, is a mathematical model of something. So that means that when you change something, you are altering the reaction of this model. So you have to be sure that you know what you are doing.
Absolutely. Nope. Now I'm a technical diver and I prefer side mount. And I noticed you guys have not only a recreational type computer that you can wear as a daily, but you guys do a really good job with side mount setup as well. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So another thing that you can add on, so we have two kind of computers. The big one that we have seen before, and this is a typical watch computer. So this is more, this is focused more for if you want for recreational divers or anyway people that they like to have just one unit like a watch that can be used also as a computer. So the software inside is exactly the same. So the algorithms for the tech version is exactly the same between I call the watch edition, if you wish, and the other edition. Plus, we also have radio transmitters for the pressure. So any computer can manage a number of different transmitters. So the tech version should be like 10 or 12 different transmitters. So how it works, basically, you have the transmitter goes on the high pressure port or the first stage, and then it will be paired with the computer. At that point, you will read on the computer the pressure. But on top of that, there is a code color in the transmitter itself, which is green, yellow, red. And you can set the threshold of pressure. So you can have, obviously, when it's full, it's green. Then you can decide below what pressure you want to have a yellow warning, and then below what pressure you want to have a red warning. So it's a redundancy. And I personally always suggest to have also a mechanical gauge because it's electronics, even if our electronics is the best that you can have, but still is electronics. So have a backup, have for something essential, like knowing how much gas you have. So have also a mechanical gauge is for safety. But in this way, you have basically triple redundancy because you have your mechanical gauge somewhere. You can read the pressure on your computer, plus you can see the color. It's not only you, it's your dive buddy. So this works great with side mounts. You keep an eye. You might have the gauge on the side, but you don't need to grab it because you just check your computer. But this is something is a redundancy which is there. Then you have the transmitter, or even if you go back mount. Think, for example, you are an instructor, or you have students around you. You can easily see them. You can see the colors flashing here. So you know everyone is on green. Oh, this guy is on yellow. I know that he was breathing more than usual. So that once again gives you a layer of safety in the operation. So is another redundancy. Yes, you see here. Same idea. The probe itself can be plugged the same ratio toolbox. So there is an upgrade. If there is an upgrade in the software of the probe itself, the transmitter, you will get that as well. Is a rechargeable battery. Everything is a rechargeable batteries inside. So they are sealed. There are no ports that can be flooded. There is a special wet contact on both. So it doesn't matter that it's exposed to the water. Then when you have to recharge, obviously you dry the contact first, and then you plug in, and then you use the same cable basically for data transmission between your laptop and the computer or the transmitter, and then also to recharge the computer and the transmitter. So it's a very effective way. It's easy, not complex stuff, and it's very robust and solid design.
Excellent. Well, we're really excited to see Ratio come into the States and get some testing and take a look at that more fully. Giorgio, thank you for coming on and spending a little time with us about Ratio computers. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Perfect. Again, Benjamin Hadfield, Teach Me to Dive. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. We'll put a link to Ratio Computers in the link here as well, so you can go check them out for yourself and make that decision. And that's all we'd ask is make an informed decision and find what works best for you. Ratio is definitely a very nice computer, and it's definitely a nice bright screen, and they're making their move into the U.S., so it'll be interesting to see how they do that and what Giorgio's role is in the future with that. Giorgio, again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.